We talked about this on the show. You mentioned the possibility of the US shifting its focus from Ukraine to China, and it looks like that prediction may be coming true. It's no secret that tensions between the US and China have been on the rise, and it seems like there's a growing consensus among policymakers and military leaders that China poses a significant threat to US interests. But what exactly does that mean, and how are we preparing for it? Well, there are a few different angles to consider here. For starters, there's the military aspect. China has been rapidly expanding and modernizing its military capabilities in recent years, investing heavily in advanced weapons systems, cyber capabilities, and space technology. They've also been flexing their military muscle in the South China Sea, where they've been building up artificial islands and asserting territorial claims that are at odds with international law. In response, the US has been ramping up its own military presence in the region, conducting joint exercises with allies like Japan and South Korea, and investing in new weapons systems and capabilities that are specifically designed to counter China's strengths. But there's also an economic dimension to this conflict. China has become a major economic powerhouse in recent years, with a rapidly growing middle class and a voracious appetite for consumer goods. They've also been investing heavily in infrastructure projects around the world, particularly in developing countries, as part of their Belt and Road Initiative. The US, on the other hand, has seen its economic dominance challenged in recent years, with rising inequality, sluggish growth, and mounting debt. There's a growing sense that China is on the verge of surpassing the US as the world's largest economy, and that this could have profound implications for US national security. So what does all this mean for the average person? Well, it's hard to say exactly, but one thing is clear. We're living in a rapidly changing world, and the geopolitical landscape is shifting in ways that are hard to predict. As always, it's important to stay informed and engaged, and to think critically about the information we're being presented with. And who knows, maybe one day we'll have Colonel Macgregor back on the show to give us his insights on the latest developments in the world of geopolitics. Now we discuss the environmental impact of China's economic growth. China has experienced remarkable economic growth in recent decades, becoming the world's second-largest economy. However, this growth has come at a cost to the environment, with China now facing some of the most severe environmental challenges in the world. China's economic growth has been fueled by a reliance on heavy industry, which has led to significant air, water, and soil pollution. According to the World Health Organization, over 90% of the world's urban population is breathing polluted air, and China is one of the worst affected countries. In response to these environmental challenges, China has taken several steps to address pollution and reduce carbon emissions. For example, in 2013, China launched a comprehensive air pollution action plan, which set targets for reducing particulate matter and other pollutants in key urban areas. China has also made significant investments in renewable energy, such as wind and solar power, and has become the world's largest market for electric vehicles. In 2020, China accounted for over half of the world's new solar installations and 40% of new wind power installations. However, despite these efforts, China still faces significant environmental challenges. The country is the world's largest emitter of carbon dioxide, and its use of coal continues to be a major contributor to air pollution. Furthermore, China's economic growth has led to increased demand for natural resources, which has put pressure on ecosystems and biodiversity. Implications. The environmental impact of China's economic growth has implications for the rest of the world. As one of the world's largest emitters of greenhouse gases, China's actions have a significant impact on global climate change. If China fails to address its environmental challenges, it could undermine global efforts to mitigate the effects of climate change. Furthermore, China's demand for natural resources has implications for global biodiversity and ecosystem health. As China continues to grow, it will require more resources to sustain its economy, which could lead to increased deforestation, habitat destruction, and other environmental problems. Now we discuss human rights situation in China, particularly with regards to the treatment of ethnic and religious minorities. The Chinese government's policies towards groups like the Uyghurs in Xinjiang and the Tibetans have been the subject of increasing international concern and have sparked debate about how the international community should respond. Background. The Chinese government has been accused of a range of human rights abuses against minority groups, including mass detention, forced labor, and restrictions on religious and cultural practices. In Xinjiang, the government has detained an estimated 1 million Uyghurs in internment camps, where they are subjected to political indoctrination and forced labor. In Tibet, the government has implemented policies aimed at suppressing Tibetan culture and religion, and has been accused of using torture and other forms of coercion against political dissidents. Impact on international relations. These issues have had significant implications for China's relations with the rest of the world. Many countries and international organizations have condemned China's actions and called for greater protections for minority rights. Some have imposed sanctions or other forms of economic pressure on China, while others have sought to engage with the government in dialogue. However, China has been defiant in the face of international criticism, denying allegations of human rights abuses and portraying its policies as necessary for maintaining social stability and fighting terrorism. This has created tensions with some countries, particularly the United States, which has accused China of using its economic and military power to undermine international norms and institutions. Potential solutions. So what can be done to address the human rights situation in China? Some have called for greater international pressure on the government, including sanctions and diplomatic isolation. Others have advocated for engagement and dialogue, arguing that cooperation and constructive engagement is more effective than confrontation. Ultimately, the solution to this problem will likely require a combination of these approaches, as well as a commitment to human rights and the rule of law from both China and the international community. It will also require a recognition of the complex historical and cultural factors that have contributed to these issues, and a willingness to engage in a nuanced and constructive dialogue about how best to address them. Thank you for watching today's video on the human rights situation in China. We hope that this discussion has provided some insight into this complex and important issue, and that it has sparked further discussion and reflection about how we can work together to promote human rights and dignity for all.